Please watch this movie right to the end without stopping before you do anything, just to get an idea of how it's going to work and all of the things you need to do. Starting with, make sure that you remain as quiet as possible until you are ready to record. When you are, make sure that your neighbors are not recording. And if they are, just wait until they're done. Then, signal to them that you're about to do your recording so that they can be quiet. We're going to start the recording with this red circle record button at the far right of our control buttons. And when we stop, we're going to use the yellow square stop button. Please don't ever use the pause button at the far left of the control buttons. It will lock up the tools and it just causes trouble. When you click the record button, wait 1 second before you start to talk, just to make sure that all of your words get recorded and nothing gets cut off. So let's give that a shot. I've signaled to my neighbors that we're going to record. Around 20,000 years ago, Toronto was covered by a huge glacier 2 kilometers thick. When the glacier melted, it formed Lake Iroquois and the waterfront of the time. Lake Iroquois' many neighboring rivers acted like the roads and highways for the Aboriginal people. The Aboriginal people traveled by canoe to reach many hunting, fishing, and trading grounds and other locations. Lake Iroquois eventually dwindled into what we now call Lake Ontario. And you notice that I waited about another second at the end so that I didn't cut any words off. Now, don't be alarmed if you look at your time and you're like, oh my gosh, 40 seconds. That's okay. I did a couple of retakes in there. And if you do, yours may be longer than 30 seconds. That's okay. We're going to edit out any gaps, like at the beginning and the end, and any mistakes. Even if we're over 30 seconds by a little bit, that's okay too. So the first thing I'm going to do is fit the whole thing into the window. So if I go to View, and I come down to Fit in Window, I'll be able to see my whole waveform. And it looks a little bit on the quiet side because the higher these waveforms get, the louder the sound. But I can play it just to test it out. So if I click somewhere at the beginning here, just once, and then I can press the space bar to start and stop the playback. Around 20,000 years ago, Toronto was covered by a huge glacier 2 kilometers thick. So looking up at my levels, my highest levels was still around -12. So that's not too bad. So after listening to your recording, if you feel that you absolutely cannot work with the audio that you've done, that you're missing words perhaps that you wanted to say that somehow you missed, you can do one more take. But please try and work with what you've got. It'll be faster so we can get this done and you can start picking images. So if you do want to re-record, you can mute this track. We'll keep it and so that you can compare and see which one you like better. So we'll mute it so that we don't hear it again. And you can just press the record button and record one more time starting all over again. Around 20,000 years ago, Toronto was covered by a huge glacier 2 kilometers thick. And so on. And if we play this back, we'll only hear our one track around 20,000 years ago and not both. And so you can compare the two. Whichever one you don't want, if you decide, oh, I want the first one, you can click on the X here to delete this one. If that wasn't the case, you can delete the first track and keep the second one. And I'm just going up to the Edit menu and choosing Undo. So if you delete something that you want back, just go up and Edit and Undo. But go ahead and try your recording.